Hello. So I just wanted to share a story about my first very clear memory of feeling a spirit. And this is kind of like where my mediumship was birthed, how it really started, kind of like part of my origin story. And I'll share more of my story and how I really got to become a medium. But this is just like the very first thing that happened that was very clear for me. So whenever I was 7 years old, I had this spirit come into my room every single night. And you guys got to think, like, I'm 7 years old. So this freaks me out, right? I feel this thing in my room every night. And I'm like, I literally thought that there was a monster in my room that would come in the dark. And so I would do this thing where I would run down the hallway. Me and my brother were both on the second floor of our house. And so right where his door was, I was at the end of the hallway. I would run down the end of the hallway, and right where the carpet changed from the hallway carpet to my carpet, I would jump right at the line of the carpet, right where my room started. I would jump and leap onto my bed, which was not right next to the door. So it was a pretty far leap at 7 years old. But what I thought I was doing was preventing the boogie monster for coming out and grabbing my feet and dragging me under the bed, right? Like in all the movies. And so I did that every single night for months on end. And I never told anyone about it. Like, I never told my brother. Me and my brother weren't really close, so it's not like he would see me running down the hallway or anything. I never told my mom. I never told anybody that I was doing this. And then out of the blue, my aunt calls my mom. This was back when we had house phones, so our phone rings in the house, and we hadn't heard from my aunt in months. And so she calls my mom, and I can kind of hear her on the phone, and I didn't know what they were talking about, but I knew that she was somehow talking about something with me and my brother. And she was like, yeah, they can absolutely, anything, absolutely. And so my mom comes to my brother and I that night and asks us if we want to go with my aunt to see a medium. And I guess she didn't tell us this at that time, but I guess what had happened is that this medium that my aunt had been going to for a long time, for years at that point, the medium kept saying that my dad had a message for his kids. And she was she told my mom, the last few months that she had, or the last few times that she had gone to him, every single time, they said over and over, he wants you to bring his kids here. He has something to say to his kids. His kids need to come here with you. And so finally she called my mom and she asked, and my mom was like, anything that involves their dad's healing, absolutely. And so me and my brother were like, okay, I don't know what's going on. Neither of us really knew what was going on. We just hadn't seen our aunt in a long time, and we knew it had something to do with daddy. So we were like, okay, let's go. So very movie traditional story in the sense of my aunt picks us up. We go to this really spooky looking, kind of hole in the wall place in downtown Philly where I remember at the entrance of the door in the basement, you walk down this basement and there were the dangling, at the doorway where you have to go through the doorway. It was very, very traditional psychic that you would see in the movies. Crystal ball and all of that in the center of the table, a seance table, And so I'm 7 years old and I'm like, what are we doing here? What is going on right now? We're in this dark basement, in this place in downtown Philly. Like, I don't know, it was just it was very movie-esque, we'll just say that. And so, you know, they start reading for my aunt, and then they say some message to my brother, and I'm not exactly sure of like how much that resonated with him, but I know what they said to me was, you know, he looked me right in the eyes and he said, "Your dad just wants you to know that there's nothing to be scared of at night. He's just coming to check on you." And that moment changed my life. It changed my entire life. I was jaw dropped. There was not a single person. There was no one on the planet that knew that I felt this thing coming every night. There was no one that knew that I was running to the end of my bed and jumping. And at 7 years old, this blew my brain open. And also, you know, after that experience, once I knew that it was my dad passed when I was 3. I was 7 years old at this point. Once I knew that it was my dad, I became really open to this spirit and this energy that was in my room every night. And we started communicating, and he started to set up different signs and signals and songs and just different little things where I knew it was him because it felt the same. The energy felt the same as the same thing that was in my room. I would feel that same thing whenever I would see this like symbol or whenever I would hear this song. And so he started communicating with me. And so not only would he come to me every night and be with me, but we started setting up like communication systems. And I was really open to him for a long time, to be honest, until I got into my teenage years and kind of got into like drugs and alcohol and started partying and like numbing myself. And I became really disconnected. And then it took me years after that to really reconnect with my father again. But my dad is still one of my main people on the other side that really helps me. But he was the main one. Like, in all honesty, if it wasn't my dad that was coming every night, if it was just like some spirit, I don't think that I would have been nearly as open. I don't think I would have trusted it. I would have been just continued to be really freaked out by it. But like, thank God, you know, because of this medium, I was at 7 years old, like completely jaw dropped and like just blasted open, and it changed my life. And I fell in love with mediumship. I'm like, it was one of the deepest healing moments that I had with the healing process with my father. And so, to me, mediumship is incredibly healing, and miraculous, and can literally change the game. And then especially for intuitives and sensitive, you know, people, it's really, really impactful. So I just wanted to share with you guys, you know, the origin story of how, just a little piece of the whole story of how I became a medium. But that was like the very, very first piece. And I'm going to share more of my story, but just that moment of, you know, very, very like traditional movie, but not a scam by any means. I was floored. I was jaw dropped by how on point this message was and how impactful it was for me, and how close it brought me my dad after that. Like, I was really, truly open to him, and we created a lot of communication and systems and, yeah, just different things set up so that way I could be really open and know and hear and see and feel him really clearly. So, I hope that you all enjoyed my story, and I'm going to share more of the pieces that led to me like really becoming a medium. But that was the main blast open doorway moment, which is such a blessing and a curse, right? To lose your father at age 3. But also like he's a huge part of my purpose. He's a huge part of my purpose. And that I am forever grateful for, truly.